Thank you so much for coming to LiveRead LA number 14. We are very happy to see you. Yay! It's weird, I can see like some of you with where the spotlights are. My name's Tim Schilberger. I'm the director of this thing, and also the one who gives you feedback on the script. So if any of you wrote in, I'm the one who sent you the feedback. So if you hate me, I'm sorry, and if you don't, then you're welcome. So yay. Firstly, thank you so much for coming. Most importantly, thank you to our two winners. We have Jace, who's down here. And Brian, who is sitting somewhere else. Brian, where are you? At the back. Most importantly, Brian's wife had a baby 5 days ago? 6 days ago. Yay! That's what really matters, none of this other stuff. And also, thank you to our insider, Brooklyn Weaver, literary manager, who is sitting at the back. Thank you very much for coming. For those of you who have not been here, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give a brief rundown of what we expect from you lot tonight. Then we're going to get into reading. We're going to read one script, then Brooklyn, me, and the writer, who will be Jace, we're going to read Connection first. We will give feedback up on the stage. And then once we're finished, we take feedback from you guys. And then in other news, just so you know a little bit about us, today's an exciting day. I'm going to tell you why. We just launched a new annual writing competition called Write LA. We are open for submissions on Friday. We're just sort of telling people this week. We're doing it in collaboration with a website called LA Screenwriter, and if you haven't been there, you probably should. They have a whole bunch of links to scripts, all of the Oscar-nominated scripts. They do a lot of content, a lot of other stuff. It's a really great resource. So we partnered up. We're doing a competition. We launch on Friday, or we accept submissions on Friday. The prize is we're flying 3 people into LA for 3 nights. We're putting them up in the Standard Hotel in Hollywood. And during that time, they'll get 2 days of workshops. We also do workshops. So we'll be doing a sort of truncated version of the workshop. There'll be breakfast with insiders so that they can meet people in the industry and have some sort of 3-on-1 time where they can get some insights. And then on the final night, we're going to have a invitation-only gala where we'll be reading up to 30 pages of each script with some actors and making them feel like they're part of the whole sort of LA experience. So if you know anybody who lives out of town, feel free to let them know. If you win and you live in town, you can still stay at the Standard, so you can have a staycation. That's fine, I don't mind. So yeah, oh, and only one other thing. Brooklyn is delightful and a literary manager, and he's here and he will take some questions on stage when we do the Q&A, and he may hang around afterwards, I'm not quite sure. But the one thing we ask is no pictures, please. He's not here to hear about your great new script that's going to win the Oscar next year. So by all means, go and say hello, but just keep the pitching to non-existent, because please, because I won't be pitching him, so if I'm not pitching him, you're not pitching him. Okay, does anybody have any questions or concerns before we start? Good, so let's start. Connection actors, come on stage.
Connection, written by Jace, Lacob. Yeah? All right. Act 1. Exterior, downtown Manhattan Street, night. Expensive leather boots beat the rain-slicked pavement. A raven-haired woman, Saffron Sutherland, 28, a true socialite, though she's left that world behind, dressed in all black, including black Italian leather gloves, runs as if her life depends on it. Interior, Tribeca loft, hallway, minutes later. Saffron races down a hallway soaked from the rain. She throws herself against the door of the loft, but it won't open.
Damn it, come on!
She spies a red fire extinguisher on the wall and slams it against the doorknob repeatedly until it clings to the floor. Saffron throws open the door and rushes inside. Interior, Tribeca loft, continuous. The drip drop of rain against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the bohemian loft awash in a romantic mood lighting. A crimson slash of blood arcs across a white wall. Above that, the body of a young blonde woman lies in a pool of blood on the ceiling. Her eyes are frozen, wide with terror. Horrified, Saffron tentatively steps further into the loft. Broken shards of a wine bottle crunch underfoot. She hears a creak behind her and spins around. Saffron gasps. Exterior, St. Ursula's evening. A graceful stone cathedral rises against the night sky. Chiron, 24 hours earlier. Interior, St. Ursula's, support group room, evening. A rundown community center meeting room with a ring of chairs at its center and a table with snacks and coffee. Occupying the chairs are a real mix of ages, genders, and ethnicities, some of whom we'll meet later. Mary, 40, stands. She's a Charlotte, prim and put together, her hair in a French braid, and as tightly wound as she is.
It was horrible. Awful.
Sitting next to her is Glenn, 45, black, bald, wearing a janitor uniform, but with the soft hands of someone unaccustomed to manual labor. His eyes move as if reading something only he can see in the faces of those around him. On his other side, Grace, 17, a sullen Asian teenager who is 17 going on 37. The blue streaks in her black hair, a deliberate affront to her super traditional Korean parents, but much of her rage is posturing. She texts compulsively.
But I could feel the anger building up like water against a dam, and I knew it would feel so good just to let it out.
Across from them is Constance, 45, a round black woman with a gap-toothed smile and a calming nature, whose collected demeanor hides secrets of her own. An empty seat next to her.
What happened last time, Mary?
I burned down our house,
And?
our neighbors, and their new car.
A mobile rings sharply. Head spin towards Saffron, the woman from the opening. She hits ignore and Mary glares at her.
Sorry.
Go on. What did you do this time?
I walked away from Steve. I told the kids I was taking a bath, and I did some meditation exercises.
You found your calm place. You didn't let the fire control you, but you controlled your fire.
It wasn't easy. I wanted to let it out so badly.
Gee, what could your problem be?
I'm in the middle of sharing.
Grace, why don't we let Mary...
I mean, if you and Steve are bumping uglies, you wouldn't have to talk about this endlessly.
Fire flickers in Mary's eyes, smoke rising off of her. Chiron, case note style. Mary, 40, pyrokinetic. Constant leaps up, attempting to defuse the situation.
Mary, I need you to calm down.
Apologize to her, Grace.
Just saying what everyone's thinking.
It's telling the truth.
Tiny flames ripple over Mary, her eyes flickering. Nervous chatter from all of them except Ethel, 82, a rumpled octogenarian lost in her own world, seeing things the others cannot or will not. Finally, Anouk, 30, a strikingly elegant French-Moroccan Muslim woman in a stylish blue hijab, whose steely eyes gaze stop you in your tracks, sighs in frustration.
Pretend! Just apologize, Grace.
Fine. I'm sorry, Mary. Please don't set us all on fire.
Mary's flames die down. She sits down haughtily next to Vivon, 55, a quiet middle-aged Indian-American man wearing an amethyst crystal on a chain. He leans over to Mary.
If I may, carnelian might help. It dissolves negative emotions, even anger. Next time I could bring
Crystals? Sorry, I put my new age phase behind me 20 years ago.
He serenely waves away her rudeness. He is Zen incarnate.
Any other concerns?
Vivon swallows hard, starts to raise his hand.
I feel like I'm being
I'm worried about Laurel.
Constance motions to the floor and Saffron stands. Vivon, looking defeated, slumps in his chair.
She has a stalker, and in her typical way, she's not taking it very seriously.
Has she contacted the police?
That's the thing. She finds the whole thing sort of funny.
Where's Laurel now?
Exterior, Jane's Carousel, Brooklyn Bridge Park. Magic hour. Between the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges sits a restored vintage carousel, now enveloped in a plexiglass jewel box. Music fills the air as children and adults ride. Laurel Kingsley, 25, a vivacious and flighty blonde with a dry bar blowout and a genuine warmth, the girl we saw dead on the ceiling, stands and watches with nostalgia from afar. Chris Riley, 30, British, boyishly handsome but with haunted eyes that have seen too much, strides past the pavilion with a coffee, headphones on, cut off from everything around him. He's focused, to a fault. Laurel turns to leave and steps smack into Chris, spilling hot coffee all over his chest. He yelps.
I'm so sorry.
Chris flinches and steps back sharply before actually seeing Laurel. When he does, Chris smiles. This might just be his lucky day. Laurel tucks a strand of hair behind her ear.
Did I burn you? I wasn't looking.
Laurel blots at the stain. It's strangely intimate. She stops, her hand on his chest.
My fault. Lost in my own world.
Sure you're okay? I know first aid.
All in my pride. Any chance you've something that can mend that?
No salve for the bruised male ego.
Chris smiles, a Cheshire cat grin.
I'm Laurel.
Chris, do you like merry-go-rounds?
I do. I'm an army brat. My family moved around a lot, but wherever we went, my dad would find me a carousel.
That's quite sweet. Did you and he Sorry, I'm rubbish at small talk.
Rubbish.
Too British?
I'd say just British enough.
So how does that carousel read?
She turns to look at the carousel lit up against the dark.
This one's a beauty.
Laurel smiles wide. Chris is instantly smitten.
Listen, I never do this, but
He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a business card.
if you'd be up for a coffee sometime, give me a ring.
Laurel takes the card. She leans over, whispering in his ear.
I've got a better idea. Tomorrow night, say 8 my place?
She playfully bites his earlobe. Chris grins in rapture. Laurel motions for Chris's phone and types in her address before handing it back to him.
You've got my info in case you change your mind.
She turns and walks away, looking back over her shoulder.
Oh, I won't.
Chris watches her as she struts down the path toward the carousel, where he notices a woman. It's Saffron. She and Chris make eye contact. Chris looks away quickly. Exterior, Brooklyn Bridge Park, continuous. Saffron watches Chris and Laurel. Chris as Laurel approaches, smiling.
I find you here. You miss group. Again. So, who is he?
A new friend.
Laurel plays with Chris's card. Saffron snatches it and slips off a glove, touching the card. She turns it over, confused.
Nothing.
You're reading nothing because there's nothing to worry about.
Saffron's phone rings. She pushes ignore. Laurel raises an eyebrow pointedly. Saffron puts the phone away.
Don't start with me.
Laurel smiles and links arms with Saffron, lifting the mood.
Come on then, drinks on me.
Saffron looks at Chris's card. Laurel plucks it from Saffron, careful not to touch her skin. Off Saffron, concerned. Interior, trendy bar, a few minutes later. A crowded scene with beautiful people 3 deep at the bar. Saffron and Laurel sit on stools, halfway done with their drinks. Chris's business card sits on the bar between them.
He's harmless. Did I mention that he's British?
Someone broke into your place 2 nights ago. Maybe not the best time to be making new friends.
They didn't take anything. In fact, they actually left me a present.
A dead rose on your bed.
A secret admirer. It's kind of hot.
Laurel!
Just because you've sworn off men doesn't give you an excuse to be freaked out by my secret admirer.
Stalker.
Laurel shoots her a look and downs her drink, then smiles and motions to the cute bartender for 2 more. Saffron sighs, stirring her drink with a cocktail stick.
Nick came by again last night.
Interior, Saffron's apartment, living room night. Flashback. The living room of an expensive pied-à-terre is stuffed with moving boxes amidst the tasteful furniture. Saffron tiptoes toward the front door, which shakes from violent pounding.
Open up the goddamn door!
Saffron touches the video intercom, revealing Nick Daniels, 34, a dark-haired playboy in a rumpled Brioni suit, the very essence of white male privilege. He pounds on the door. Saffron slumps against the wall, trying not to make a sound.
I just want to talk, Saffron.
He pounds again. Saffron slides down to the floor.
I'm sorry, Seth, please.
Saffron's eyes are resolute. She does not forgive him. End of flashback. Interior, trendy bar, continuous, present day.
You did let him in, did you?
Chad, an investment banker type with his custom-made dress shirt unbuttoned too much and loafers with no socks, inserts himself between them at the bar, sloshing his Jaeger bomb.
Have I seen you 2 luscious beauties here before? Because, oh shit. Saffron Sutherland?
Saffron cringes at being recognized, especially by Chad.
Chad.
Hey, heard you called it off with Nick. Dude's a wreck. He's being such a little bitch about it.
Saffron stares daggers at him.
But now that you're unattached, you and I could finally,
Laurel rolls her eyes.
How's Plum? Haven't heard from her in a while.
Plum and I, we split up too.
Saffron slips off a glove, touching Chad's forearms with her fingertip. An electric spark leaps between them. Flash, Chad has hot sex with party girl Plum. Chad in a tux sweats bullets as he exchanges vows with a couture-clad Plum. A deeply pregnant Plum sleeps in bed next to Chad, who flicks through Tinder. At the bar, Chad slips off his wedding ring. End flash. Chiron, Saffron, 28, token object reader, retrocognition.
Mazel tov on the kid, by the way.
What? No, I told you, Plum and I,
Beat it, Chad.
Laurel focuses on Chad's drink. Then the glass suddenly leaps up and overturns, soaking his crotch. Chiron, Laurel, 25, telekinetic.
What the hell? Crazy bitch?
You should thank me. Only action you'll be getting tonight.
The women laugh as Chad steams. Laurel grabs a business card as she and Saffron head for the exit.
Well, at least Chris can't be as bad as that guy.
Exterior, busy New York street, night. Headphones on, Chris passes a storefront fortune teller with a blinking pink neon sign of an eye in the middle of a palm. On the stoop slouches Roberta, late 40s, a painfully skinny neighborhood eccentric, enshrouded in a stained I Heart New York sweatshirt. She takes a drag off a cigarette, swilling from a can of Dr. Pepper. She's drunk, and it's not pretty.
The past, present, and future told, only $30. No?
She spies Chris approaching.
Yeah, one of these days you'll ask me to read your fortune, sweetie.
Chris politely shakes his head. He's been here before.
I'm good.
Roberto tries to stand up but slips on the steps, wobbling.
Christ. Have you eaten anything today, Roberta?
She tries to wave him off, but she's unsteady on her feet.
Well, vodka comes from potatoes.
Chris sighs and helps her get inside the shop. Interior fortune teller shop, continuous. A series of cliches, beaded curtains, flickering candles, a crystal ball, a round table with colorful scarves. Removing his headphones, Chris maneuvers Roberta to a chair.
Coffee?
She motions behind the beaded curtain to a small kitchenette.
When are you gonna meet a girl, settle down, move to the suburbs?
Chris disappears behind the curtain.
Is that what you see in my future?
Roberta cackles.
Maybe a guy, I'm not judgmental.
Chris reappears with a cup of coffee and some aspirin.
Well, I just met a girl.
Now you're a dark horse. Is this one for keeps?
Not even a little bit.
Interior, Saffron's apartment, bedroom, afternoon. Saffron lies face down on million thread count sheets, in gloves and last night's clothes. Unpacked moving boxes fill the opulent room, lending it an air of decadent transience. Flash, close up on a single drop of blood spattering in slow motion onto a pristine white surface. End flash. Saffron's eyes wide open, her pupils dilating.
Laurel?
She winces, hungover, and gingerly sits up. She looks at a clock which displays 3:22 p.m.
I have got to stop drinking with you. You are such a bad influence.
She spies a note on the nightstand and grabs it. Insert, off to get ready for my date. Unpack, LS.
And I'm talking to myself.
Saffron's phone rings. She presses ignore, then rolls over on her back, staring at the ceiling, seeming very much alone. Interior, Enion Data Office, evening. Chris types in his cubicle, dwarfed by mounds of paperwork, headphones on. His boss, Ben, 40s, heavy and wearing soup-stained khakis that are 2 sizes too small, waddles over. Ben tuts and Chris sheepishly removes his headphones.
Christopher, we don't pay you to listen to your tunes all day. This is a business.
Helps me concentrate. But it won't happen again.
No, it won't.
Ben walks away and Chris puts the headphones back on, returning to data entry on his computer. Carl, 25, a shaggy-haired beanpole with acne-ridden cheeks, leans over the barrier separating his cubicle from Chris's. What a tool. Fight the power, man. Chris nods, eyes locked on his monitor. Annie, 45, ruddy-faced, tired, dirty flip-flop, smiled as she passes by. Chris forces a smile, dropping it as soon as she passes. Interior, expensive private gym, evening. Saffron takes out her anger on a punching bag. Breathing heavily, she takes a final mighty kick, then removes her boxing gloves and reaches for her phone, typing on the screen. Saffron, in your neighborhood, blow off your date with a British guy and hang with me instead. Laurel, ... The typing stops. Saffron sighs, clicks off her phone. Exterior, Laurel's building, evening. Chris stands in front of Laurel's building, holding a bouquet of bodega flowers and a bottle of wine. He lets himself in through the unlocked front door, filmed by a security camera. Exterior, downtown Manhattan Street, same time. Saffron walks, dressed in the same outfit from the opening. Her phone rings. She instinctively reaches to silence it until she sees it's Laurel calling. She answers.
Change your mind then?
On the other end of the line, an odd sound, like a cross between a loud snake hiss and a bear growl, rings out.
Laurel? Laurel!
There's something here.
A scream on the line. Saffron throws her gym bag and runs. Interior, Tribeca loft, evening. Pounding as the door to the loft flings inward. Saffron, holding a fire extinguisher and out of breath, steps inside. The extinguisher drops with a clang to the floor. The crunch of broken glass underfoot as her eyes pivot from the crimson arc to Laurel's body on the ceiling. Saffron's face fills with sadness and horror, a rare vulnerability. A creak behind her. She spins around, gasping. Chris lies on the floor next to a broken wine bottle and a bouquet of cheap flowers. The lights flicker violently as she approaches him, casting an uncanny glow on Laurel's body.
You killed her?
I didn't.
The snake hiss low growl reverberates through the loft. They stare at each other, a tense beat, frozen with fear. Blood drips to the floor. The sound returns, louder now. Chris, his eyes wide with panic, bolts past Saffron and out the door. Without hesitation, Saffron gives chase. A second later, we see them through the rain-slick windows as they run down the street, lightning flashing violently. End of Act 1. Act 2. Exterior, downtown Manhattan Street, night. A deserted cobblestone street. Chris slows to a stop, panting, only to see Saffron right behind him.
Shit!
He puts his hands up in surrender. Saffron doesn't miss a beat and punches him sharp in the gut. He doubles over.
Did you kill her?
What?
Did you kill her?
No, when I got there, she was...
Laurel. Her name was Laurel.
Chris stands, maintaining a safe distance from Saffron.
Laurel was on the ceiling. That noise, it sounded like...
You heard it too? That sound.
It sounded like an animal.
Saffron steels herself in shock. A police cruiser drives by, a beat as she agonizes whether to flag it down. The car's siren bleats as it speeds past, Saffron watching it go. Seeing a diner across the street, Saffron grabs Chris by the sleeve and drags him toward it. Interior diner, night, continuous. Chris and Saffron, soaked, sit in a window booth, rain streaking down the filthy windows. A bare light bulb hangs above them. A TV above the bar displays sports scores.
Why were you at Laurel's apartment?
That's between me and Laurel.
She's dead, so it's between you and me now.
It was supposed to be sex. No strings attached, just some fun.
Saffron's eyes are trained on Chris's every reaction. He shivers, toying with an empty chipped coffee mug. Saffron's mug sits untouched, her gloved hands folded on the table.
When did you meet Laurel?
Yesterday in the park. She put her address in my phone, told me to...
In your phone? Can I see it?
Chris reluctantly hands his phone to her. Saffron carefully pulls off a glove and touches it. But there's no flash, no vision. She looks confused, turning it over in her hands.
What are you doing?
Saffron stares at the phone as if in disbelief.
Can I have my phone back?
She replaces her glove and passes the phone back to him. She tries to look in his eyes, but he's squirrely.
I remember you. You were at the carousel waiting for Laurel. Christ, what am I doing here? None of this makes any sense.
Chris looks genuinely scared and lost. Saffron softens.
What's your name?
Chris Riley.
I'm Saffron. Most important thing right now is to stay calm, Chris.
No, we need to go to the police.
Not the best idea. You're a suspect after all.
I didn't even know her.
A dour-faced waitress appears with a coffee pot in her hand.
Coffee?
Saffron nods. The waitress fills Saffron's mug, then moves towards Chris's. He places a hand over it rudely. The waitress shrugs and slopes away.
I didn't see this. I didn't see it coming.
What do you mean?
Chris stares into his empty coffee mug. Silent. Saffron sighs and goes to take a sip of her coffee.
I wouldn't.
What?
Coffee. The waitress spits in it.
How do you know?
Saffron turns to follow Chris's line of vision and sees the waitress slouch guiltily behind the counter with a coffee pot. Saffron leans towards Chris quizzically as the light bulb above them glows brightly, and then shatters. Interior diner, a few minutes later. The waitress sweeps up the shards of the light bulb with a dustpan. Chris and Saffron sit silently until she finishes.
There's something off about you.
Off?
Off. Definitely off, I'd say.
Why were you at Laurel's flat?
I was worried. Laurel could be naive. Dangerously sometimes.
The television above the bar displays a breaking news report.
We've received word of an unusual homicide in Tribeca. The victim is a 28-year-old woman whose identity is being withheld.
Saffron turns to the TV, her back to Chris so he can't see her tear up. Her face crumples, Laurel's murder finally hitting her. When she turns back, Chris is gone. Shit. Exterior, downtown Manhattan Street, continuous. Saffron rushes out, but there's no sign of Chris. Interior, Tribeca loft, night. Close on, the bloody arc on the wall, and pull back to reveal that Laurel's loft is now a blur of activity as police officers and forensic team members canvass the crime scene.
Mother of God.
Detective Gloria Vasquez, 38, proudly Latina and skeptical to a fault, despite the cross she wears around her neck, methodical and dogged, looks up at the body and touches her cross instinctively. It's a nightmare tableau. A hydraulic lift positioned below Laurel's body slowly lowers with a loud creak as medical examiner Dr. Corwin Dean, 28, baby-faced, bespectacled, whip-smart, and definitely on the spectrum, steps off. Blood now soaks the floor.
Ever seen anything like it?
Corwin stands next to her, his face alight with imagination.
It's impossible. Why do I land the weird ones?
Weird? This is mind-boggling WTF murder of staggering genius.
Genius, Corwin? Really?
Another creak as 2 forensic techs go up on the lift.
Detective, a dead girl's body is on the ceiling and I have no idea how it got there.
I'm starting with what I do know. Someone took a fire extinguisher into the doorknob outside.
Spoil sport.
Their eyes move to the bloody arc on the wall.
It isn't arterial spray. The shape is too deliberate. Controlled even.
He lets that sink in. Detective Ed McKenzie, 55, Vasquez's unapologetically full-bellied and slovenly partner, appears at Vasquez's elbow with a cough. Corwin moves away.
Laurel Kingsley, 28, flight attendant, lived alone.
Any eyewitnesses?
My goddamn shins are killing me from walking up here.
Tick-tock, Eddie.
Vic's neighbor, Patricia Nelson, told Uniform she saw a guy and a girl run down the stairs at 8:30.
He motions to Patricia, an elderly woman in a moth-eaten cardigan, talking to an officer at the door. They move to her.
What are you thinking, magnets maybe?
Magnets?
High-powered magnets, super glue? How else is she gonna get a body to stick to the ceiling like that?
Can you describe the 2 individuals you saw, Ms. Nelson?
Another creak as the lift in the background rises again.
A man and a woman. He was fair like my nephew John, but younger. Attractive, but, shifty.
Uh-huh. What about the woman?
A loud shuddering creak as the hydraulic lift gets stuck. Techs scramble in the background to try to fix the controls.
I've seen her here before. Very elegant, always wearing gloves. Oh, no one wears gloves anymore.
The shuddering creak continues. Patricia stares at the corpse on the ceiling, distracted. The lift moves jerkily up and down, trapping the techs on board. Mackenzie looks irritated.
Gloves, huh? Anything else?
They ran by my apartment like the building was on fire. Woke my cats.
A young male forensic tech approaches Vasquez and Mackenzie.
You've been very helpful.
Patricia misses the hint, staring at the body at the ceiling. Security camera footage. Our man enters at 8:20 p.m., followed by a woman 5 minutes later. He then exits at 8:31 with her in pursuit.
Tell me we've got a match on file.
That's a thing. He holds out a photo printout, which Vasquez snatches from him.
Saffron Sutherland.
One of the techs touches Laurel's body, which then falls to the floor below with a loud, wet thud. Patricia screams. Exterior, Times Square, later. Chris pushes through the crowd in Times Square, neon lit and teeming with people, even at this hour. He glances over his shoulder, eyes roaming anxiously. He looks dead suspicious. Saffron stands by the George M. Cohen statue, scanning the crowd before her eyes finally align on Chris. She pushes through the throng towards him. Chris spies 2 uniformed cops by the red TKTS steps. He starts to go in another direction when one of the cops sees him and gets on his walkie. Chris freezes, panicked. The cops look to each other and walk towards Chris, who swiftly does an about-face as he prepares to run.
Don't.
Chris clocks Saffron suddenly standing behind him.
Don't make me chase you again.
Saffron lunges for him and they struggle. Chris's bare hand brushes against the gap between her glove and the sleeve of her jacket. The cops race toward them. Intense static flares between them, a forced connection. Their eyes crackle with electricity, sparks flying. Flash, a flood of images. Saffron rushes towards Chris covered in blood. A younger Chris and a red-haired woman argue. A circle of people sit in a cruddy community center, and then smashing through the shared vision, a wide smile in the darkness. End flash. Chris holds on to Saffron, unable to break the connection, their faces filled with horror at what they've just seen. The neon lights and LCD screens of Times Square begin to surge, growing brighter and brighter, and then begin exploding, popping in a cacophony of booms. Chris and Saffron fall to the ground, unconscious. End of Act 2. Act 3, white. Close up on a single drop of blood spattering in slow motion against a white surface, followed by a few other drops that mar the beauty of this pristine, snowy white expanse. Interior, luxury hospital room, morning. Saffron's eyes open sharply. She lies in a luxury hospital suite awash in fine linens and soothing colors. In the well-upholstered chair next to Saffron, her stepmother, Georgina Sutherland, 52, a patrician grand dame, never without a withering comment or a sullen frown, files her nails. Saffron groans, touching the back of her head gingerly.
Does it hurt?
Waking up to you, Georgina? Yes, it is painful.
Then you ought to update your emergency contacts.
Saffron frowns, aching everywhere.
The doctor said you might be disoriented. Something about an explosion in Times Square.
Explosion? Like a bomb?
Georgina shrugs, still filing her nails.
Where's the guy I was with? Chris.
Georgina shrugs again, sighing deeply.
Saffron, your father's worried about you. You won't take his calls.
That's for damn sure.
You cut him out of your life. Why?
Ask him. You won't like the answer.
Saffron heaves herself out of bed, grabbing her clothes. Interior no-frills hospital room, morning. Chris stirs in his sleep. Seated next to him, Vasquez talks on her mobile. Chris's eyelids flutter.
I'll call you back.
She ends her call as Chris slowly opens her eyes.
I'm Detective Vasquez. I have some questions I hope you can answer.
Chris touches his head, wincing. Vasquez opens her notepad.
Where am I?
You're in the hospital, Mr. Riley. There was an incident last night in Times Square. You were injured.
An incident? A terrorist attack?
An electrical surge. We're investigating what caused it and whether it was intentional. You don't know anything about that?
I haven't the slightest.
How did you know Laurel Kingsley?
I just met her. She invited me over last night.
Vasquez nods, feigning sympathy.
For what purpose?
I imagine to get to know me better.
Do many strangers who invite you to their apartments end up dead?
What? No,
You brought wine and flowers with you. It was a date, no?
I don't date.
Vasquez raises an eyebrow, jots something down on her pad.
So what were you there for then?
As I said, she wanted to get to know me better. It was her idea.
Vasquez slides in her chair closer. Chris narrows his eyes.
Where's Saffron?
How do you know Miss Sutherland?
I don't. I've never spoken to her before last night.
But you do know who she is.
Chris shakes his head.
You and Saffron were the only ones entering or leaving the building.
Seen entering or leaving, you mean?
At the time of the murder. Mr. Riley, did you kill Laurel?
No. She was dead when I arrived.
How exactly did you ascertain that?
She was lying in a pool of blood on the ceiling. It seemed definitive.
You said earlier that you don't date. So why the wine and flowers?
It wasn't a date. I just wanted...
Sex?
You're putting words in my mouth. I
expected sex from Laurel Kingsley. Did she not feel the same way? Did she change her mind? She turned you down, you got angry. Life never turns out the way we expect, now does it?
Chris laughs nervously, staring at Vasquez in an odd way. A glimmer of static crackles in his eyes for a split second.
It certainly didn't for you. Detective did it. Home alone, swinging from a bottle, mooning over old photos. Did he dump you?
She leaps up, face flushed. He's hit a nerve.
Chris Riley, I'm arresting you.
The door opens. Anouk, whom we saw earlier at the group, enters briskly. She wears a blue hijab and mirrored aviators.
Excuse me, I'm right in the middle of...
Anouk whips off her sunglasses, staring at Vasquez.
You're done with him, Detective.
Chiron, Anouk, 30, hypnotic suggestion. Vasquez's body goes slack and relaxed, as if in a trance.
Yes, we're done now.
Vasquez gets up and walks out. Anouk grabs Chris's clothes from a drawer, throwing them to him as he climbs out of bed.
We only have a few minutes.
Who the bloody hell are you?
Saffron called me, so I came.
Exterior street, a few moments later. Chris and Anouk, aviators on, walk down the street. She has her hand on Chris's back, urging him forward.
What did you do to that detective?
She'll remember thinking she was done questioning you. It won't last long, so we should hurry. Vite.
Chris stops short.
You did that with your mind?
Anouk shrugs haughtily. A shadow crosses Chris's face.
Where's Saffron?
She can handle herself. Don't worry, we'll meet her at the group.
Off, Chris is weighing whether to go with Anouk. Exterior hospital morning. Vasquez slowly exits, still in a trance. Mackenzie nervously extinguishes a cigarette under his shoe when he sees her.
Gloria?
She walks by him without hearing.
Earth to Gloria.
Vasquez blinks as though waking up for a dream.
What did Chris Riley say?
She looks around, confused by her surroundings.
What?
You okay, Vasquez?
I was questioning him, but...
She realizes with horror that she let their only lead walk.
Damn it! Where's Saffron? Does anyone have eyes on her?
Off Vasquez's pissed expression, interior luxury hotel room continuous. Vasquez and Mackenzie rush into Saffron's hospital room. The bed is empty. No Saffron.
Shit.
Exterior, downtown New York Street, morning. Chris and Anouk walk to a busy area. He's jumping.
I need to get to work.
Your boss believes that you were in an accident and aren't coming into the office today. Your job is safe.
You did that?
I can give people a small push, get them to bend to my will for a short while.
Saffron, is she like you?
When Saffron is ready to talk, she'll talk. It's her story to share, not mine.
A male executive pushes past them, heading for the crosswalk and talking on his phone. The walk sign blinks red. Static crackles in Chris's eyes, and we see a future flash. Chris sees the executive cross the street without looking and get hit by a taxi. End future flash. Chiron, Chris, 30, precognition. Chris and Anouk reach the crosswalk. The executive's still on his cell. Chris steps out of the executive's way, tensing as he looks at Anouk, his face distorted in her aviators. Impatiently, the executive steps into the street. A taxi careening around the corner slams right into him, his bones crunching. Onlookers scream as Chris bolts, not looking back.
Aye! Tu es fou!
Anouk scans the crowd. Damn it. Exterior, Laurel's building, morning. Cops and forensic techs exit the building, the sidewalk cordoned off. Saffron watches from across the street, her face ashen, the horror of what happened finally setting in. Interior, St. Ursula's support group room, day. Nervous energy abounds. Grace texts, Ethel stares, Anouk enters, shaking her head at Constance. Constance claps her hands as everyone takes their seats. An empty seat next to her. Saffron enters, lingering at the back.
I have some terrible news. One of our own was killed last night.
Hubbub as members look anxiously to see who is missing.
Princess Cut Emerald lost its luster.
Laurel. It's Laurel, isn't it?
I'm afraid, yes, it's Laurel.
More hubbub, voices rising as people talk among themselves.
Oh no, a white girl's dead and everyone's freaking out now.
Now, what's that supposed to
Grace, you're not helping.
Incisors tear through empty space.
Stop it. Laurel was a friend. Show some respect.
A hush descends on the group.
How did she die, Saffron?
All eyes pivot toward Saffron.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to?
Oh, I'll let you lead.
I don't know if you noticed, Peters, the amount of reading of scene description was going on. So the balance is sort of, there was too much. And too much description. You get into details of what color dresses people are wearing and what sunglasses they're wearing and their mood and their personality. And you don't need to do that. The costume people will get really annoyed because that's what they're paid to do. And B, it's a common thing that I see in a lot of scripts, and I'm sure Brooklyn does too, where people use scene description to tell you things that the audience couldn't possibly know, and that it's something to really try to avoid. You can play with it a little bit, but if you get too stuck into the personality traits, that kind of thing, it's like if we're watching, we have absolutely no idea of anything. So it's your job to tell us or show us rather than slip it in the scene description. And then the other big point, before I get into other stuff, is that there were 24 speaking parts in that 30 pages. There is no TV show I know of that would pay 24 actors to appear in 30 minutes of television. It's just not practical. So I've done this, everybody does this, where you see a scene and even just the waitress who has that one line about the coffee, sure, it was a funny line for us in the room, you absolutely don't need that line. And there are a bunch of those in there. So just sort of keep an eye on that. It really feels like, so that's the horrible logistics crap out of the way. For me, overall, I was curious to know what was going on, but I kept wanting to get to it. Every time you were giving us a hint of, okay, now I'm getting into the plot, you would sort of veer off into something that was like a scene that was, I don't know whether this is important or necessary. So I kept thinking as I was listening now, that I would really suggest you take a chainsaw to it and really think about what the important beats are in the script and just put those in. And then see what time you have left. Because I think once you trim away a lot of the other stuff and you just get to the, just the facts, man, it would be much more compelling and we would really get sort of further along. Because we're 30 minutes in, theoretically, into a 1 hour. Is this 1 hour?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're 30 minutes into a 1 hour, and as a reader, I really don't know whose story it is. People keep coming and going. I just don't really have much of a clue yet. I know obviously it's got something to do with Laurel's death, and Chris is not all that he seems, but it just got a little bit bewildering by all the comings and goings. So that would be mine. But I'm intrigued. I want to know more. So I just want to see you kind of clear away all this stuff. That's me.
Well stated, sir. In terms of the intent, like, own your, lead with your milieu, right? Because there's a crime investigation going on. And to his point, which you populated.
Could you speak up, please? I'm sorry, I can't hear you at all.
Oh, sorry. to lead in within the milieu intent. So we start with a death and a crime that has some preternatural elements, right? And so within stacking out the population of it, which will dilute your sort of your A story and the backbone of the milieu you're seeking to inhabit. So if you've got a death with a girl on the ceiling, right? If you had started with that, right? We could play this whole thing out. You could contain your entry point. You state the milieu, right? We have a preternatural crime. We have our lead that's being investigated, right? I would pair out the population element, population density cited, and really what you do is you scope into that, and we know exactly what this is from the entry point, and through that investigative sort of narrative, what's this sort of, you know, preternatural, supernatural element that's going on that has your audience leaning in as opposed to trying to track all the multiple storylines that you inhabited initially, which I would just essentially comport your entry point with the crime scene, the investigation, that'll organically introduce your characters and this sort of preternatural world, and the you know, if it's, you know, somewhere between you know, and here's where I would come in holistically, how that slices through the prism of content as it pertains to the, I'm trying to think of the Marvel series that's come out, The Gifted. The Gifted, right? So holistically, this is what myself and clients talk about. There's an idea, there's a character, an entry point that sabers in, which goes with all the notes stated, that offers a compelling, you know, we've got the, you know, the Marvel series with the female investigator, like all these, this dense prism of content to holistically step in, but with a very character intent and all the rules that go into this death. Who is it? What's it about? Why is it happening? Because to your teacher's point, to Tim's point, it gets diluted with, you know, populated sort of character elements, when the real intent, if you want to sell something, is looking at that dense rainbow of content, as it were, and how your character is going to distinguish and be thoroughly compelling to, moreover, the demographic intended. So right now we've got, you know, an interesting death that seems not of this world. We've got gifts, right? And how do we and we've got Marvel and DC fare. So holistically, on a character basis, how do you saber into that with a very intriguing and compelling character POV or predicament that is going to allow you into that mythology? And so you stacked it forward, right? You threw the universe at us a little bit too much. Started with a character in a fucked up predicament, investigated, leading to inexplicable, you know, supernatural elements that has our audience wondering. This was done very well in humans. It was done very well, like in many different content forms, and on a character-based lens, exploring that.
Do you see it as Saffron's show? Or is it this team of misfits in there?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's sort of an ensemble piece with Saffron and Chris sort of at the forefront, with Vasquez kind of right behind them.
Ensembles are tricky to roll into. There was I liked your deconstructive tone, the dating sphere, the Tinder element, and a guy who goes on a date that gets really fucked up in a really weird way. And so, in a weird way, if I thematically reduce this, millennials in this sphere trying to, like, I think Aziz Ansari was like, it's like you take a girl on a date, he takes her to the Globes, and now we're in a consent issue, but this went horribly awry. Deconstructing that God particle into this really fucked up, weird universe that y'all are, that we're all dealing with. I think it's almost an unconscious response to it on a Freudian level, and then you have to also observe within the prism of content the powers, the rules, all those things. Okay, body on the ceiling, not normal, even in LA. Usually you get
speak yourself.
Usually you get an accident. It's like, is anyone dead?
Right.
You're lucky if a cop shows up. Body on the ceiling is where I'd start.
Right. Well, you do, right? But then you jump off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and
So it goes.
I think the population, it dilutes your entry point.
Yeah.
And
yeah, the self-help group. Did you notice it? I mean, you can tell sometimes. That's what's fun about doing reads, is that you can tell when we're engaged and when we're not. I think anyway, from an audience point of view, and I really feel that the group therapy stuff just had us drifting. I think we were interested in Saffron, we were interested in why the lady was on the ceiling, and a little bit about her, and then the fact that they had, but then you didn't, because you were populating stuff like, hospital scenes and, all those kind of stuff, which are not necessarily vital, because you weren't giving us a sense of, well, is this normal that there are self-help groups for these people? Are these powers in this world sort of accepted? Would the police be aware of this stuff, or is this completely new? It seems odd that it would be completely new, that there are so many of them running around that they can organise a community centre and have a chat. I mean, that leads me to believe that people are aware of it, that they're not like super secret. But it just, so you would, to Brooklyn's point, so it's sort of like, get us into that stuff. We don't need some of the other stuff. We want to know what's going on. But it does feel much more like it should be Saffron's show. I mean, and Chris maybe, but she really was the spark.
Yeah, choose your entry point that's going to distinguish. To Tim's point, there were some superfluous scenes, right? That, I mean, really what it is ultimately is, whether it's a film, cable series, broadcast series, you kind of have 10-minute, like I try and get my wife to watch a series, you've got 10 minutes to cut through and invest,
Yeah.
And it's almost like, that's why I love, I'm obsessed with watching stand-up. You watch Dave Chappelle, you know why he's Dave Chappelle. Like, you have 10 minutes to cut through and distinguish right from the top, or you're dead.
Easy, right?
Yeah, like we call that, I mean, I myself and my clients, we talk about the pilot as like the pyramidical foundation. In the first 60 minutes, that's the series. You look at the best series, genre to genre, the pilot defines a series. And so you really have to make, those are crucial pyramidical choices. I use that, like, because that's your foundation. Everything moves off that. Breaking Bad, season to season, didn't really move off that. Arrested Development, I could go genre to genre. Game of Thrones, like, you can dip right into season 6, and it's, you have
dragons and boobs.
Empowered females and kicking ass.
I don't watch the show. Every time I tune in, someone's getting murdered bloodily, there's a dragon, and then there are boobs. I'm like, okay, Game of Thrones has really moved on. Let's move on.
It is wish fulfillment. Come on, you want to ride a dragon.
Of course.
Only the girls get to ride the dragon.
See, that's not fair. I didn't know that.
It is what it is.
Now I know I know it.
The queens rule the verse. These are heavy debates.
I know.
Yeah.
Alas, we're only here until tomorrow morning. Does anybody have any feedback from the crowd? I see a hand. Sir.
This is great lighting, thank you. I was looking for that person to kind of be my entry point in. And I got the feeling it wanted to be Saffron, but in the hospital scene, when Chris starts asking questions, I realized that's the person that has the vision that I should have and who's going to get questions answered, and he comes in so late. That's something that I saw.
Yeah, oh, good point. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Just 2 quick comments.
Sure,
You
sure.
made one of the characters British, but you didn't seem to use his Britishness. I didn't see the point of him being British, particularly. You know, I think if you choose a nationality for a character, there ought to be a reason for that.
Do you have a reason? You like crumpets?
I do.
Okay.
Don't we all?
It's a valid point. It's all character based.
Yeah. Is that why I watched that Instinct show last night with Alan Cumming, who has this...
I just love British accents.
Well, he has a glorious sort of
It's
Scottish
true.
accent, and yet they made him American. And I was like, why didn't they just let him go Scottish? It didn't matter. He was in the CIA, he could have been Scottish.
Or Australian, I think, you know.
Well, definitely Australian. But, anyone else? Yes, ma'am, down the front.
Yeah, I just felt like Saffron is paranormal, and she heard the paranormalness on the telephone call, and then her friend is on the ceiling paranormal, but it feels like, oh, well, this human dude did it. When she heard, even before Chris got there, that the chick was in danger.
Oh, so why is she suspicious of Chris when
Why
she
she
knows...
and run after him when
there's a
she
creature?
try and be getting her off there and thinking about what paranormal thing would have done that. It just felt like it was a disconnect.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of that, it feels like people are treating it like it's a normal murder, except for the moments when they're not. In the sense that, like, there's a body on the ceiling and nobody seems to want to call anybody else, which makes me think, oh, maybe this is a thing in their world that's not common, but they act like it's uncommon, and then it's like, oh, well, was this a date gone wrong, and not like, oh, how do you get a chick on the ceiling? Like, do you have a recipe for that?
Sounds like that.
So yeah, it feels like the actual strangeness of it, or at least like, why is the police officer so comfortable around someone who literally murdered someone? She has no idea how or what, just that it was supernatural.
Michelle, did you have...
Oh, I just had I didn't know if there was additional stakes to be raised besides just the murder. Because once they saw that
It's a good
murder-
instinct.
Hmm?
That's a good instinct.
That's the
Scoping
only
in, where's it going? Defining the rules throughout.
like another antagonist to be introduced, or just within that world. Like there's just an additional threat. Like is there someone targeting all these people? Is there some, you know?
Yeah, that's the legs of the series.
Definitely by the
for sure.
end of the pilot, we sort of see the full extent of that threat, and it does amp up as we go. There are other bodies.
I think we would suggest you get to those quicker. But I believe you know that by now. Karen.
I did like how Chris was like the kind of Joseph Campbell kind of entryway, like where we get to learn about the world through his ignorance of what seems to be an established relationship that the paranormal people have with each other. I felt like Saffron maybe would have shepherded him through that process, and maybe that's a good opportunity for you to make that character stronger and more of a leader. Like she abandoned him in the hospital, and she kind of like, she loses him really easily later on. Jessica Jones did a really good job of taking that initial murder and saying like, oh my God, he's back, and they know who the big evil is. And that was a really good, engaging thing to get me into that struggle of like what the series is going to be. Like there's this crazy psycho
Yeah.
mind control guy.
It's part of the the pilot setup. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. One more. Gentleman at the back.
Yeah.
I'll take you two. I'll do two.
It just strikes me that maybe one of the fun, exciting things about the show for the audience as time goes on will be those moments of meeting a new person who sort of has the powers, whatever you want to call it, maybe wondering who they are, what they can do. And I wonder if the chirons in the group therapy kind of cheats you of some of those moments, because there's so much fun in the audience, kind of like Battlestar Galactica wondering who the Cylons are. There's something really, the kind of thread of mystery that's pulled through episodes by wondering who is the next person I'm going to meet and what are they capable of. And I just wonder if you might preserve a little bit more of those fun moments for the audience by giving a little less information.
And you, ma'am, I saw your hand up. I'll let you be last.
I really loved Laurel, and I loved what you developed her personality as, and we got that little bit of backstory with her meeting of Chris. So when she died, I was just so sad to see her go, because Saffron didn't get that same development treatment to me with the personality. So I guess I wish I had a little bit more with Saffron in the beginning, so when the show moves to her, it feels like there is a focus and there is a person that we're interested in.
That's true. Laurel does get more backstory treatment than probably anybody, and then you stick her on the ceiling. Awesome. All right, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Do you have any comments, questions, thoughts, anything you want to share? Now is your moment.
No, I mean, this has been super helpful. It's been really great to hear it read and to get feedback from people.
What did you hear when you, because it was the first time you've heard it read?
Yeah.
So what did you get from it, hearing it?
I mean, I definitely picked up more on these sort of slow down moments where, you know, the plot and pacing does slow down as we get sort of stuck in those group therapy scenes, which I love, sort of introducing all these characters and sort of building out this world, but I understand why it slows down the momentum so considerably.
Right.
So that was insanely helpful to hear.
Well, especially in a pilot, as Brooklyn said, I mean, you really do have such a limited amount of attention span that you're dealing with. So if you're choosing world building versus plot and character, you're in trouble, is really I mean, that's as exciting and fun as world building is. You know, I'm not saying it's not fun.
Pick your entry point.
Yeah.
And explore it through the characters.
Yeah. Cool. Jace Lacob, everyone.
Shitty Hall, a pilot, story by Brian Golden and Jonathan Bode. All politics is local. Tip O'Neill, U.S. Congressman and Speaker of the House of Representatives, 1977 to 1987. Fuck Tip O'Neill. His neighbor, probably. Act 1. Darkness. We hear a honk, then another. A cacophony of car horns. Exterior Main Street, Goodwin, Iowa morning. A traffic cluster fuckorama. No one moving, everybody pissed. This is Goodwin, a once adorable, now decaying Rivertown. Interior, Isuzu Amigo. Close on a dash clock, 8:53 a.m. We're inside with Abby, 32. She's late. She pivots out of the jam, headed the other way. As she does, one wheel rides on the sidewalk, almost swiping a pedestrian. He yells. Abby gives him the finger, zips off. Exterior, side streets, morning. Abby whips through side streets, pulls on a dirt road in a crap part of town. Her shitty Amigo speeds down the road. Interior, Isuzu Amigo moving. She looks at the clock, 8:59 a.m., still late. She accelerates. She hears a siren. Abby looks in the mirror. Yep, a cop car. Interior, Isuzu Amigo stopped. Tap, tap. Knuckles wrap the window. Abby rolls it down.
I swear, I don't know when that became a 35.
That's a 25.
Abby opens the gross glove box. Somehow finds her license.
It's a horrible photo, but no one ever sees these, right? Except you.
Abby mushes her cleavage together, discreet, you know? The officer looks at her license, face, boobs, then at her face.
Please step out of the car, ma'am.
Abby sulks, looks at the clock, 9:03. Interior, whole latte fine. A cheapo coffee shop. Behind the counter, Shell, 27, brews cappuccino. Abby bursts in, still tucking in her work shirt.
Did you get my text?
You did woke up with a fever last week. I don't think he bought it.
Moses, 45, the shop's owner, glares at her. She squeezes out a cough, trying to sell it. He's not buying. Interior whole latte fun later. Douchey customer, 41, greasy hair, cheap suit, steps up.
Hey, give me a double cappuccino with 2 pumps of vanilla, no foam, and make it extra hot. Soy milk. Thanks, hon.
Abby, miserable, starts the coffee. Ding! The door opens. Ramona Hooks, 22, black, bookish, walks to the community board with a flyer. Abby marches over.
What do you think you're doing?
Can I post a flyer on your board?
As you can see, it's pretty full.
I was thinking I'd put it here.
Yep, there's room.
Well, I'm in charge now, so you kind of have to ask me first.
Can I hang up my flyer?
What's it for?
Prop 14. It would make a 1.5% tax increase to increase a 20-year city bond from which the mayor could draw limited revenues to invest in city infrastructure.
I'm dying. I'm dead. You just killed me.
The election's in 2 days.
Politics are dumb.
Hey, excuse me. How about that coffee?
It's brewing, just a second. This town sucks, okay? No 1% whatever is gonna change that.
It's 1.5%.
Hey! You ever hear the expression, the customer is always right?
Behind your head, Abby holds up a finger, index for now.
We don't allow political stuff.
Okay, well, don't forget to vote.
She exits, then a whistle, the customer. Abby marches to the counter, grabs the coffee, slaps a lid on it, holds it out.
Gotta say, Princess, if you can't handle making coffee, I hate to see how you hold up to a real job.
Pissed, she yanks the cup back, but he grabs it, tug of war. They jostle, and the lid flies off, covering the douche in steaming cappuccino. Off Abby's not my fault face. Interior back room, whole latte fun later. Silence. Abby unties her apron, hands it to Moses. She fishes keys from her pocket, then takes off her name tag.
You know what? Fuck that dude who totally deserved to have coffee spilled on him. Fuck the asshole cop who made me late, like everyone does the speed a little all the time. Fuck Shelly for not putting hose before whatever. Fuck this whole town. Fuck this entire fucking small-minded ass backwards piddly dick excuse for a town, and also fuck you, Moses. Fuck you the most. You hear me? I said fuck you, man.
Your fly is down.
Abby looks down, he's right. She zips up and stalks out. Interior living room, Abby's house. A filthy living room. Abby slumps on a sofa. Next to her, a fifth of Templeton Rye kicked. On TV, Ice Road Truckers is ending. She clicks the remote, sports, click. HSN, click. Channel 5, she stops. A chyron reads, Final Goodwin mayoral debate. A man and woman podiums. Close on the woman, Claudia Jeffries, a grounded Margot Martindale type.
When my husband died, I thought about leaving Goodwin. But when you love a place, you stick it out. If I didn't believe in this town, I would have left a long time ago.
Abby stares, thinking, then gets an idea. She leaps from the sofa, fumbles with her keys, tries to unlock the door, realizes she's inside. Open it, dummy. Finally, she does. Interior, Suzu Amigo. Abby hops in. She's obviously drunk. She tests herself.
Justin, Joey, Lance, JC. Chris, fucking Kirkpatrick.
She passed! She turns the key and haphazardly backs out. Exterior front porch, Bridget's house, night. Abby waits outside a modest craftsman. A sign. Welcome to the Thiedsman's. Bridget Thiedman answers in pajamas.
Are you drunk?
I'm totally fine. I drove here.
You know that's not proof of anything, right?
Stop sistering. Just stop sistering and let me in. It's cold as a witch's dick.
Interior kitchen, Bridget's house. A few minutes later, Abby just told Bridget news. Bridget absorbs it, then...
What about Mom and Dad's house?
I thought maybe you'd handle it.
You thought That is astoundingly selfish, even for you.
Can you just sell it or whatever?
Just sell it or whatever? Do you have any idea what that... No, you don't. You've never done anything half as grown up as sell a house.
Bridge, I gotta get out of here. Okay?
This is your home.
It doesn't have to be. Not anymore.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. Maybe be a scuba instructor in the South Pacific?
You even know what scuba stands for?
Well, the S is obviously for swimming.
Okay, you're already wrong.
Goodwin and I do not get along, all right? It's not a phase or a passing fever. I don't fit here. This town's a dick to me. I don't know why. It just is.
Clean the house before you go. And Isaac's birthday party is Tuesday. He'll want to say goodbye.
Abby hugs Bridget. She squeezes her so tight. Interior, Isuzu Amigo night. Abby slides into her car. She takes a deep breath, smiles. She's finally going to be free. She puts the car in reverse and we hear a loud thump. In the mirror, she sees a pole bent at an angle. She just plowed over Bridget's mailbox. Interior newsroom, Goodwin Gazette, morning. Reporters tap on outdated computers. Ben, Magovic, 51, hustles through, sipping a Diet Coke as he passes.
Yo, Mac, you can't use less before a quantifiable noun.
Sure you can.
As Mac scoots past, he fist pumps Alan Burton, 29.
Hoops this weekend? You bet. I'll bring my jumper.
Use it in a sentence.
I had less mind-blowing sex before I met your wife.
Oh.
Interior Esterbrook's office, Goodwin Gazette. Mac pokes his head inside a corner office. Greg Esterbrook, 42, his nebbish editor, waits.
How's the endorsement?
Mac flops in a chair, exhales, leans back, stumped.
Want to talk it out?
Can't be Peabody.
Okay. Jeffries, she's got experience.
Council, 14 years. How's Goodwin fared in that time? You see the new Midwest Living? They made us 499 out of the top 500 Midwest towns to live in.
Ooh, who'd we beat?
Mordor. Telling you, the proletariat is not pleased. You should hear how they talk. Wouldn't piss on Jeffries or Peabody, even if they were on fire.
We've endorsed on election day 114 years running.
I don't know, Greg. I've spun straw into gold before, but these two?
You know the reporter. Figure it out.
Interior living room, Abby's house, a pigsty. Abby looks at a checklist. Living room, bedroom, finish whiskey, donate clothes, find frisbee, renew license, Peterson Park. She takes a breath, then grabs a trash bag. Interior Harlan's diner. Close on a knife slicing through steak. Pink blood oozes. We pull back. The blade belongs to Claudia. Next to her, Treat Jeffries, 28, clean cut, overdressed. They sit with Mac.
Can't be Peabody, and you know it. We may not be Des Moines or Kansas City, but Goodwin's got enough to deserve is big enough to deserve a grown-up in charge.
I agree.
I know my way around City Hall, who wants a carrot, who needs a stick, how to cut deals, when to cut bait.
Employment down, population down, city budget in deep shit. There's potholes on my street sides of Wisconsin, all on your watch.
We've had one lousy mayor after another. You endorsed half of them.
Each one of the lesser of two evils.
That's what you think I am, evil? Mac, you're good. A royal wart on my ass, but I respect you. And I'd hope for your last endorsement at the Gazette, you'd want to be right. My sources tell me a month back, Greg Esterbrook got word from on high he's going to either sell more papers or figure out how to pay less for all those words he puts in them. Old-timers are always the first to go. You don't have to like me, Mac, but you gotta endorse one of us.
A glimmer in Mac's eye. He has an idea. Interior waiting area, DMV. An overweight woman does Sudoku. A farmer sleeps. We find Abby. She shoves the last of a powdered donut in her mouth. It doesn't look like it'll fit, but she makes it work. Ding! Abby hands DMV employee documents, then sees a man. Whoever this is, she doesn't want him to see her.
Abigail?
Too late. Randall Krantz, 55, cardigan, glasses, a nerd.
Abigail, how are you? Goodness, it's been... Oh, when did you graduate?
Mr. Krantz, wow, hi. 03.
And how you been? Keeping busy?
Oh yeah, lots going on, real busy.
Abby feels powdered sugar on her upper lip. She wipes it.
I figured you'd have left Goodwin for greener pastures years ago.
Actually, I'm leaving tomorrow.
Congratulations! Wow, where? For what?
This incredible advancement opportunity in the South Pacific.
I was so sorry to hear about your parents, by the way. Cancer is,
How's school?
How's Civics Club?
Expired? I guess parliamentary procedure isn't cool to spend time on after school. On to driver's ed, molding young motorists to ensure safe travels for the next generation of Goodwinians.
Fun.
No.
Oh.
But Mrs. K wants a summertime share in Lake Okeechobee. Those big bucks won't make themselves.
Ma'am, you're all set.
The employee hands her the license. Abby takes it.
It was good seeing you, Abby. Keep achieving.
Interior, Isuzu Amigo. Abby looks back at the DMV ruefully, then starts the car. Interior, Isuzu Amigo. Moving. Abby drives. She sees neighbors having words with the flannel shirt man. They point at something in his driveway. A giant industrial bulldozer. Abby rolls her eyes. Only in Goodwin. Interior newsroom, Goodwin Gazette, copy desk, evening, Chester types. Mac hustles toward his desk.
Endorsement copy's due in 2 hours. Got something for me?
I got something.
Interior bedroom, Abby's house. Abby on a cleaning rampage. She stops. She pulls a trophy off the shelf. She reads the plaque. Civics Club Grand Derby 2003, second place. She chucks it in the trash. Montage, election day morning. We go close on bicycle wheels spinning. We ride down a quiet street. A paper boy, 13, tosses newspapers onto porches. In montage, we see Goodwin. Townspeople read the paper with their morning coffee, show their friends, laugh about it, point as if to say, that's right. We visit a factory break room, a diner, a donut shop, an old band shell, a hair salon. Finally, Claudia's office. She slams the paper down.
Son of a bitch.
Interior, Estabrook's office, Goodwin Gazette. Estabrook slams a copy of the paper on his desk, pissed.
This paper values civic engagement, democratic involvement. This paper...
You care so much about this paper, why are you sneaking around prepping to lay off your senior staff?
Max stalks out. Estabrook picks up the paper. We see the headline, Opinion, Goodwin better off voting for no one. Exterior, Calvary Lutheran Church, morning. Abby walks up with a box of clothes. Last night's closet clean. Townspeople in a line running from door to sidewalk. What the fuck? Abby sees political yard signs. Oh, right, the election. She notices someone with a Yes on 14 sign. It's Ramona in a Goodwin Community College sweater. She offers cups of lemonade. No one takes any. Abby chuckles, goes inside. Interior polling station, Calvary Lutheran Church. Abby squeezes to the front. It's a madhouse in here. Exterior, Calvary Lutheran Church, morning. Abby sets the box by a side door, grumbles, walks past the voter line, which is only growing. Interior, Knights of Columbus Hall, Jeffrey's victory party. Streamers and balloons. Volunteers wheel stuff in. Treat and Claudia supervise. Evan and Sarah, campaign workers, enter.
Once we said we were pollsters, they shook their heads and kept walking.
Comes with the turf, not personal.
One guy found out we were with Jeffries. He flipped us off and said, this is from me to you.
Treat leads them away. Claudia's eyes find man in a dark suit, 43, watching from the corner. He is not happy. Interior living room, Abby's house. Abby looks around. The place looks pretty nice. She glances at her checklist. Everything's done except Peterson Park. Exterior, Peterson Park, afternoon. Abby walks up to a dilapidated park. Bottles, trash, knocked over trees, a decaying swing set. She closes her eyes, then opens them. Her eyes track to the ground in front of her, a used condom next to her shoe. She shakes her head. Interior, Gunchi's bar. Abby marches into a grungy bar. The bartender notices her.
Usual.
Abby hands over her visa, winks at him. Interior, Estabrook's office, Goodwin Gazette. Several reporters gather around a TV. Max sips his third Diet Coke. Channel 5 shows video of long voting lines.
Well, can't blame a guy for trying.
Alan on his phone covers the mouthpiece to the room.
My guy in the 23rd says a bunch of people wrote in no one, like Mac told them to.
I told them not to vote.
The best thing the citizens of Goodwin can do is vote for no one. Mac, they took you literally.
Each reporter rips out a phone and starts dialing. Interior, Gunchi's bar. Abby, 4 Templeton Rise Inn. On her phone, she looks up cheap travel deals. Ooh, tickets to the Maldives. She presses see the price. It comes back $3,500. She sighs. Interior back room, Knights of Columbus Hall. Claudia, nervous, watches Channel 5. The door opens. It's Treat. He looks at his feet. Whatever the news is, it's bad. Interior, Estabrook's office, Goodwin Gazette. Reporters furiously work their phones.
Hey, shut up, I'm getting numbers.
Mac pulls out a notepad, scribbles. He stops, shocked. Interior, Gunchi's bar. The bartender watches Channel 5 with Paula Caldwell. Abby kills a whiskey. She tries to flip it, misses, and knocks over a napkin dispenser. The bartender slips her the bill.
Just a shocking turn of events in the Goodwin mayoral election.
Abby hands back her visa and the bill. She's quite drunk.
A Gazette endorsement apparently has swung the election to no one.
Abby looks up the TV. Through Abby's blurred vision POV, we see a graphic. Noon, 34.4%. Jeffries, 32.6%. Peabody, 25.9%. Under it, 97% of precincts reporting.
I don't know, frankly, if anyone has any idea what happens now.
The bartender hands Abby her visa. She squints, then looks at it. Printed on it, we see her full name, Abigail Noon. End of Act 1. Act 2, exterior City Hall morning, a quaint building with a rich aura of incompetence. Interior Elections Office, City Hall, chaos. Team Jeffries on one side, Hugh Peabody, 64, and his people on the other. Media present, Arthur Brandapple, 77, the poor sap whose job it is to sort this out in front.
Quiet! Quiet, please! Please!
Everyone continues talking simultaneously.
Ladies and germs, please! My goodness. Lend me your ears. As you know, write-in ballots cast for no one exceeded votes given to either Jeffries or Peabody.
The no one votes are obviously abstentions. They don't count.
One might think, except when one remembers that the elections handbook declares an abstention can only be the absence of a vote, never a vote itself. Let us not be mistaken. These were indeed votes.
But how can you vote for no one?
How can 0 be a number? Who knows why the caged bird sings? These are riddles. The election office is not in the riddle-achieving business.
He pulls out an official statement.
9,652 Goodwin voters wrote no one on their ballot. However, our voting machines, gifts from a generous grant by the Carter administration, lacked the technical capacity to count blank spaces. So officially, there were 9,652 votes for noon.
So, because the machines are old, 9,000 votes get miscounted?
Perhaps you shouldn't have voted against the increase in technology funding during last year's council.
Mr. Brandapple, surely if the voters had known this would be the impact of their votes, they would have...
You're in a bad spot to be guessing what voters are thinking. You just lost to an empty chair.
Arthur lifts the Goodwin Elections Manual and reads.
Any town citizen, whosoever's name is on the most ballots, will have until midnight the day following election, today, to accept. If they fail to do so, the candidate with the next most votes, in this case Ms. Jeffries, is the winner.
Team Jeffries celebrates, Team Peabody protests.
Quiet, please.
So, we won, Arthur? I don't know anybody in Goodwin named Noon.
Arthur takes a deep breath as he opens his mouth. Interior bedroom, Abby's house. Abby in bed, half awake, half hungover, half drunk. Drool gathers at her lip. An ice cream carton from the night before, spoon still inside, rests between her legs. Ding dong. She comes to, peeks out the window. It's, what the fuck? Interior, front door, Abby's house. Abby opens the door. It's cramps, bubbling with excitement.
Abigail! Oh, I feared you'd left town.
How do you know where I live?
I plead the fifth. I access motorist database using my educator login. I feel like Miss Marple!
Grant notices her pajama pants.
My house, my dress code.
Did you watch the news last night?
She opens the door. He smiles big and comes in. Interior living room, Abby's house, 5 minutes later. Krantz finishes the explanation we just got from Arthur.
Any town citizen whose ever name is on the most ballots will have until midnight the day following the election today to accept. If you submit this form to Arthur Brandapple at City Hall by midnight, you'll be mayor!
She stares at him. Then she laughs a little. Then she laughs a lot. She crumples the form, chucks it in the trash.
No, you weren't always a go-getter.
I came to Civics Club because Jimmy Hickey was in it and every girl wanted to touch Hickey's dicky.
I remember you contributing some very valuable insights.
I was high for at least 85% of those meetings.
All the more impressive then.
Mr. Krantz, fun trip down memory lane and stuff, but I'm gone. Come tomorrow, it'll be like my 30 shitty years here never even existed.
Ding dong. Abby stands, goes to the door.
Abby, wait, you should change.
Too late. She opens the door. On her porch, hordes of news people, video cameras, microphones. They shout, "Wakes up, what do you think? Isn't this nuts?" Abby freezes, a deer in headlights. Then she looks at her pants and sees the huge wet spot on her crotch from the ice cream. It definitely looks like she peed herself. She slams the door, presses her body against it. She peeks back outside. Another news van pulls up. She looks to Krantz.
Did you drive here?
Exterior Abby's house, morning. We see the media horde out front. On the side of the house, we notice Krantz and Abby carrying a change of clothes, climb out a window, and scamper to his car. Interior, newsroom, Goodwin Gazette. Mac works at his desk. Esterbrook sits opposite him. Mac senses him but keeps typing.
You sold more papers today than any day since 9/11.
Not a salesman, I'm a reporter.
You're hanging on by a thread here.
I've heard that before.
Listen, we got lucky yesterday, but unless you want to go back to doing whatever it was you were doing before this, it's my rules. We'll prep your resume.
Off Mac, so irritated by this little shit. On television, we watch Channel 5. Abby answers the door in pea-stained pajamas. A chyron reads, "Goodwin to no one. You're in charge?" Suddenly, the TV is muted. Exterior back porch, Claudia's backyard, midday. Claudia and Treat watch TV. The porch looks out on a big backyard. Claudia puts down the remote, sips chocolate milk.
Have you heard from the boss?
He wants to sit tight. Any pressure we put on will look like meddling.
Patience. She's no one.
But what if she takes the job?
Patience. She's no one.
Claudia sips her milk, watches a horse gallop in the yard. Interior, Krantz's car moving, quiet. It's been like this for a while. Abby grips the wheel.
Don't forget Abigail. 10 and 2.
Abby ignores him, pulls over. Up ahead, her house. One van still there.
I can't believe these dicks have been there for 2 hours. I'm missing ice road truckers, plus I got a pack.
Oh, yeah, for that incredible advancement opportunity in the South Pacific. Mrs. K told me she saw you at Whole Lot of Fun last month.
Why did she say hi?
Yeah, she said you were yelling at a child about beans. What happened to you, Abigail?
The van pulls away.
Go build Mrs. K her stupid lake house.
Abby hands Krantz the keys, slams the door behind her. Exterior woods, afternoon. Mac's piece of shit Chevy pulls in a small clearing in the woods. He steps out and walks up to an antique Airstream. Interior Mac's Airstream, continuous. We follow Mac inside the Airstream as he unslings his bag, then drops the keys on a wooden stand he's screwed into the wall. That might be when it dawns on us. This is his home. As Mac grabs a Diet Coke, we note a hodgepodge of political ephemera, a Heart 84 sticker, Ross Perot buttons, a framed newspaper from way back, posters, plaques, and junk we don't recognize. He looks out the window, pondering his next move. Interior, Abby's car moving. Driving, Abby looks at her phone. 8 missed calls from the good sister, Bridget, and a text, "Are you okay?" While driving, Abby texts, "Tying up loose ends, then I'll be over." Bridget's response comes through. "Isaac is excited to see you. Don't forget a present this year." Smiley face. Interior, Prairie County Bank and Trust, the local bank. Abby steps to a teller behind a window.
I need to close my account.
I'd be happy to show you our one-of-a-kind Prairie hospitality and help with that. What's your name?
Abigail Noon.
The teller double takes. She discreetly gets her co-workers' attention. They share a silent giggle. Abby notices uneasy. Interior, Abby's car stopped. Abby to stoplight. Bro, 27, in the next car leans out the window.
Hey, I've got a porta potty in my backyard if you ever need to.
His buddy pulls him back in the car. They zip off laughing. Interior Walmart from Abby's POV. A maze of aisles, shoppers, and potential humiliation. She looks at her phone. She's Googled, what does my 9-year-old nephew want for his birthday? There's a picture of a Nerf Blaster X. She takes a breath and marches. She keeps her head down, avoiding eye contact. She makes it to the boys section, finds it. She grabs the Nerf gun off the shelf, pushes to the register. She survived, but then she sees a crowd of shoppers gathered by the televisions. She goes closer to see what they're watching. We see, on television, CNN. Anderson Cooper, 49, a silver fox, addresses the camera.
News of the weird before we close. Miranda Shepard is in Iowa. Randy?
Cut to Miranda Shepard, 32, in Goodwin Town Square.
This is Goodwin, Iowa, where 35% of voters yesterday cast ballots for no one. What they didn't realize is they were actually voting for a real-life nobody, Abigail Noon.
Abby's driver's license photo pops up. People do see those.
According to local law, Noon can accept the position until midnight tonight. While few locals expect her to do so, we decided to ask them what they think about their town's new most famous nobody.
We jump from one Goodwinian to another giving sound bites. She went to high school with me. That's what my husband said. I don't remember her actually.
She's kind of a bitch. Not even a charming one like they got on TV.
She's great. Loves her whiskey. I see her like every day.
Heck yeah. I voted for no one. Hope she does it too. I'd rather have a monkey in there than a politician.
Abigail Noon is not affiliated with Whole Latte Fun in any way.
Noon does have experience. She's been a barista, a pizza delivery gal, cat sitter, temp secretary at a temp staffing firm, and assistant receptionist to the town's only sidekick.
Dare I ask, how's the internet reacting to the news?
As you might have guessed, with quite a bit of levity. Here's a meme making the rounds.
Meme. Keanu Reeves making a mind-blown face from Bill and Ted's. Text. When you vote for no one and really get her.
BuzzFeed had fun listing 25 dogs more qualified to be a mayor.
Screen grab. A photo of Eddie, the Russell Terrier from Frasier. Caption. Always knew when Niles had a secret.
Did Miss Noon have a comment?
Not officially, but she did speak to reporters briefly this morning.
Clip. Abby stammering at the door in pea-stained pajamas.
That didn't sound too flushed out.
Probably a stream of consciousness.
Abby stares at the wall of TVs in mammoth shame. Suddenly, she drops the Nerf blaster and sprints out of the store. Interior Records Archive, Goodwin Gazette, a cramped basement. A clerk packs up. Mac enters.
Hey, mind if I hop on the microfiche?
You know how to lock up?
Mac jangles his keys. Yes. Clerk heads up. Interior Abby's house. Abby chucks clothes, toiletries, and whiskey in a suitcase. Interior Records Archive, Goodwin Gazette. Mac twists a dial. Microfilm whizzes by. Over his shoulder, we see old editions of the Gazette. He scans a page, then moves on. Whatever he's looking for, he ain't finding it. Interior living room, Abby's house. Abby lugs bags to the door. She takes a last look. She gets a text. Bridget, where are you? Cake time. Interior Records Archive, Goodwin Gazette. Mac rubs his eyes. Been there a while. He zips the machine. Wait. He leans forward. Over his shoulder, we see from March 21st, 1994, tucked in the bottom corner of page 12, local girl wins county poetry contest. The sub, Goodwin's Abigail Noon, 8, earns blue ribbon by sharing civic pride.
There's a place by the creek on the west side of town.
Exterior Bridget's house, night. Abby pulls up in front of Bridget's. Only the camera stays in the present. We hear the voiceover of 8-year-old Abby.
Where all I do is act like a clown.
She looks in. Bridget, Isaac 9, and Brian 34 in party hats eat cake. There's an empty chair at the table, hers.
I swing swings, Mom reads a book. Everyone smiles wherever I look.
She looks in longingly. Isaac smiles.
I was born without wings, but at Peterson Park,
Abby sees something in the corner of her eye.
I fly, proud and fast like a lark.
It's the mailbox that she plowed 2 nights ago.
Goodwin's my home, and I'll always recall.
She drops her house keys inside the mailbox.
At Peterson Park, feeling 10 feet tall.
Abby slides back in her Isuzu and zips away. Interior office, City Hall, night. City officials play euchre. Claudia pokes her head inside.
Claudia, you didn't have to stop by.
Wanted to be here when it became official.
Arthur beckons her in. Behind her, Treat and 2 staffers. Interior, Isuzu Amigo, moving night. Abby cruises out of town. She sees a building, Goodwin Gazette. On impulse, she yanks the wheel and pulls in. Interior, Goodwin Gazette, front desk. A secretary, 50, mans the Gazette front desk. Abby enters.
Ben Macavic's not still in, is he?
Oh, actually, he is hard at work. Would you like me to get him for you?
No, let's not bother him. I'll just leave a note on his car. Do you happen to know what he drives?
Oh, yeah. Old red Chevy pickup, that's Ben. Let me write down the plates.
Secretary scribbles something, hands it over. Abby smiles. Exterior, Isuzu Amigo, parking lot, night. Abby rifles through her trunk. She pulls out a tire iron. Exterior, parking lot, night. Abby checks the plates on a pickup against the paper. They read Scoops. Yep, this is it. She rears the tire iron.
I'd go for the bumper, not the window. Much more expensive to fix.
You're Ben Macavic?
Guilty as charged.
Well, fuck you, man.
She steps toward him, wielding the tire iron.
Hey, now, splattering my brains on the parking lot don't help you any.
Everything's a joke to you, huh?
Not everything. Not your life.
Abby lowers the tire iron.
People are assholes. That's why I'm getting out of here.
Cheers to that. I got a whiskey in my car. Celebrate? It's Templeton.
Interior office, City Hall. The Euchre deck sits, idle. It's 10:05. Claudia stares out the window. Her phone rings, ID unknown.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Exterior front lawn, City Hall night. Claudia steps out.
No sign of her. Don't worry, the plan goes in motion at 12:01.
Claudia gazes at the empty parking lot. Exterior parking lot, Goodwin Gazette, night. Abby and Mac lean on his Chevy, passing whiskey back and forth. Moonlight reflects off the muddy river.
We came in '72. Pop got transferred here. I remember sitting up nights hearing the BNSF train roll into town. Darn if I didn't think this is a town where things are happening.
Was everybody full of shit back then?
Everybody's full of shit everywhere.
You got out and came back. Why?
So, highway time, huh?
I saw this documentary on Netflix about scuba diving in the Maldives. That's bullshit underwater. Sometimes I feel like the whole world's this club, but nobody ever taught me the secret handshake.
Yeah, I do hear fish are a relatively non-judgmental species.
Abby toasts the bottle. Matt glances at his watch. 11:02.
Of course, the thing we got in common with fish is short memories. People forget easy. Forget the good you did for them when times were flush. Do them right, they'll forget they ever thought you were a bum, too.
I should probably go. Thanks for the whiskey. Sorry about the,
Mime's holding the tire iron, walks to her car.
Yeah, it's too bad this happened right before you left.
What do you mean?
Well, just if this hadn't happened, most people never would have known who you were. But now, the nasty stuff on TV today is what they're stuck with.
Yeah, and whose fault is that?
It's mine. I was just sick of seeing the same old stuffed shirt run this town into the ground.
I'd love to see how they do a real job. Like slinging coffee for douchebags 8 hours a day.
Yeah, City Hall's a mess. You got your incompetent bozos, your egos, your good old boys, and enough red tape to choke a horse. It's a tough job. Got to be smart, resourceful, play well with others. A lot of things nobody thinks you are.
Fuck you, man. I'm smart, okay? I did civics club in high school.
Oh, now that's a resume.
Can't play well with others? When people don't act like peckerheads, I play great.
There's congeniality, too.
At least I'm not on TV saying Goodwin's so great. At least I admit this town fucking sucks.
Now that's a campaign slogan. It's a shame you're running. You could find a way to maybe turn Goodwin around a little bit. You might just show all these assholes you ain't just some nobody. I think that'd make you feel about 10 feet tall, don't you?
What time is it?
Interior office, City Hall. The oldest city official asleep in his chair. It's 11:48 p.m. Treat smiles at Claudia. For the first time, we see her smile back. She's pretty. Exterior, Abby's house, night. Abby's Isuzu rips into her driveway, just missing a shrub. She leaps out, dashes to the door, reaches for her keys. Yeah, they're in Bridget's mailbox. She peeks inside at a clock, 11:52. 8 minutes left. Takes a breath, elbows a window hard, shattering glass everywhere. She crawls inside. She runs to the trash, digs out the form from this morning. Interior office, City Hall, 11:54. Claudia taps a foot. Treat checks his watch. Interior, Abby's car, moving, 11:56. Abby speeds across town, signing the form on her steering wheel, swerving all over the road. Interior office, City Hall. Arthur checks his watch, 11:58 p.m. It's basically midnight. Arthur stands, extends a hand to Claudia. As they shake, headlights shine in the window. They freeze. Exterior parking lot, City Hall. Claudia and the others burst outside. Abby's Isuzu jerks to stop. She leaps out, runs up the steps, gripping the form.
Are you Alan Barntingle?
Arthur Brandapple. And you are?
Abby flips over his wrist to look at his watch. 11:59. She slaps the form emphatically in his hand.
I'm Abigail Noon. I'm the mayor.
Arthur looks on bewildered. Claudia stares down her new foe, close on Abby, exhilarated and with absolutely no fucking clue what happens next. End of Act 2.
Brian sets the record. We've done 14 of these live reads. Never have we had 30 pages that had 33 speaking parts until now. So there you are. There's my first note. Never, ever, ever let that happen again. Not just for us, just think of us. Think we have to cast this thing. And we can only fit about 10 actors on stage, and to have them do 33. So that's why an amazing job by the actors. It didn't get too confusing. You guys held it together really well, and I am grateful. So thank you from me. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go?
You go, Tim.
Well, I really like Abby as a character, and I liked her when because it's odd actually that we do read a lot of scripts with this sort of a sloppy female character nowadays. It's I don't know what's shifted in the zeitgeist, but I like the plot. I like that you reveal that she's the people vote for no one, and I really so the sort of the kernel of a really interesting half hour was kind of there. What was interesting to me was that as soon as you sort of get a sense of what the show is, you know she's going to end up being mayor. So your trick is how do you make it surprising and interesting and and somewhat suspenseful, and knowing that we all know where it's going to lead. And it was interesting reading it versus hearing it. For me, when I was listening to it, it really popped when it was about the mayor stuff. And it really, it sort of sagged a little bit when it was more about Abby's world, because we sort of got how hopeless she was pretty early, and then there wasn't really much to add, apart from the poem, which was lovely, and then you gave her a little bit of humanity, which I think really helped. So I hate pitching, and I know I tell everybody else not to pitch. You should make it a Western. No, I'm just kidding. It sort of felt to me that the clock should be ticking kind of from the beginning, so that there's sort of this, we know the countdown is on, for Abby, the vote's already, it's almost like we didn't need a lot of the stuff in the beginning, we just needed to drop in after the election, and Abby has been essentially elected mayor, and sort of, we know that, and then we kind of see her dumbassing her way out of town, and she doesn't really know, but we sort of, do you know what I mean? It's like because a lot of the stuff before that, a lot of the stuff before the clock started ticking was somewhat repetitive. We are, as an audience, especially in a dark room listening to actors, it's really quick for us to pick up who people are and what you're doing. And you did a great job of sort of describing Abby, and we got a real sense of who she was. So you could kind of chainsaw a lot of the stuff out. I know I'm using that word in 2 different scripts today, which is terrible. But really kind of boil it down to, this is sort of a race against time. And then that gives you an opportunity to really give us a bit more from the villain lady who wanted to be mayor, because she just kept repeating, it's all going to happen, it's all going to happen. But she did that about 3 different times. And it didn't progress from that. It was just like, haha, once I get, twirling her moustache. But nothing else was sort of, it didn't progress. And I kept sort of waiting for it to kind of grow. And so if you cut a lot of the the other stuff, you get an opportunity to kind of do that.
Well, she's got a great arc in season 4.
Right.
Just stick around.
I'm sure she does.
Yeah.
I had one question, logistics question. I didn't get a sense of how big Goodwin was, because they have a whole bunch of media, like, so they have their own TV station. They had a whole bunch of people mocking, and yet flocking her door when she got elected, and yet they have one local newspaper that seems to be run by 2 people, and they have and like 20,000 people voted. So let's say that's, I mean, does that mean it's a town of 200,000 or
Probably a town of about 70,000.
Right.
I think 50 to 80,000.
So,
I grew up in a town of 100,000 in Iowa, and it's kind of like probably about that size, but a hair smaller.
Okay. It feels like the town has a part to play in this that is underexplored somewhat.
I think I should be clearer that some of the media flocks from out of town.
Yeah, well, you did and that's why, like, the Anderson Cooper stuff was funny, but not. But again, it's sort of wasting real estate because we're not going to. Your aim for a pilot is not for us to fall in love with Anderson Cooper. It's for us to fall in love with Abby, and to get a sense of who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, what it is. And I really like the relationship between Mac and Abby, and the 2 people who wanted to be mayor. You have them all there, and the sister. I mean, your little group is pumping along. I just didn't feel that it needed a lot of the other stuff because I really wanted to see them because Abby's lovely. And then my final thing is, and I do this when I'm writing. By the way, I finished a first draft today. So I meant to mention that earlier. So today is a good day. Yeah. Thank you. Although it feels like, when you hit base camp if you're climbing Everest, it's like, yeah, I know it's rare to get to base camp, but I've got a fucking long way to go. It's really sad. There's some low-hanging fruit jokes. You've gone for the obvious. It'd be really awesome if you kind of looked at all these characters like, okay, here's what we're all expecting. We're expecting her to be a whiskey drunk. We're expecting her, people to know her. We're expecting, Krantz to be the way he is. We're sort of, you're kind of playing to our expectations, and it would be really fun if you said, okay, how can I make Krantz different? How can I make him a nerd who has a fascination for something else? Or, give him a quirk. Or something that really surprises us and is like, oh, okay, this is something I haven't seen, or these are characters that are showing me a little more, something. And because there were a few jokes where it's like, yep, it's funny. I'm not saying it's not funny, but it's like, it's kind of, oh, you went there. That's where we expected you to go. And I think, given the skill you've shown, you really have an opportunity to take us to places that we haven't seen and really make these characters be somewhat. In a familiar kind of setting, we know she's going to be mayor, and yet you put in some eccentricities or some of your own humour in there, and I really think the thing could pop. That's what I think. Over to you, sir.
Well stated. I think this is, I thought the conceit in the character was thematically meaty, and your writing popped. There's, to Tim's point, there's a way to format this where you can almost jump in, but then I actually like the character development, to be honest. I mean, I thought her character was well drawn, and if you've potentially, there's ways to format a pilot that would inform the series. You could jump into the conceit, Breaking Bad style, if you will, like you were talking, so that we get from the trailer, which is, so right there we slice through, and how I think there's a very thematically provocative wish fulfillment right now, where you can take a microcosm and layer it in a really wish fulfilling manner, And in regards to her character, what's going to sustain this series by definition, what I was wondering is, she wrote that poem. She's going to the bar. What happened in between? Because that's going to be your fuel rod forth, okay? Every single, her parents, the ex-boyfriend, the cop, the quarterback, whoever it was, they're all going to essentially become a deconstructive microcosm to the political Americana as we have it, and you'll invite your surrogate audience in. The more that you're able to stack, so I didn't mind. To Tim's point, I think, and I also
you're allowed to disagree, by the way. It's okay.
No. I think there's what we're seeing is institutions like the New York Times faltering right now. All the political, like all the trust me's from every grandparent on down. And the only way when we're in times like this is to do a comedic microcosm, but it's gonna work off the fuel rod of her character. And what I would use the pilot for is, you know, the baker, the candlestick maker, the journalist who had started and had great aspirations, that failing institution. What you could do is stack all the Americana elements into this microcosm, right? Which becomes a play-like petri dish where all the her you know, what happened to her in the past? Why does she want to get out of this small town and be prodigal? What made her want to drink? What were her dreams prior? So that, at least inferred, without being on the nose, so that every character you currently have, if you jump in, which cuts through to your point, because we know where it's going. You watch an Instagram, you watch a trailer, you know where that pilot's going to take us. Every character should inform a thematic sort of God particle of all the various institutions of America, so that what you get through the best comedy, whether it's Arrested Development, whether it's, you know, Modern Family, whatever the best comedy is, what it really is lensing and deconstructing the various ids, you know. So right now you've got the cop, you've got the, you know, right now fairly mustache twirling, you know, we know we're, you know, you know, it's
the establishment.
Right, the establishment, this is a shoe-in, and what you offer is a wish-fulfilling lens, but you need to utilize your current characters in the pilot to inform her character, your protag, because her fuel rod will, by definition, be sustained by all the people who thought one thing of her, or she had one, you know, something like set up your even just small character points, and then that's what's going to sustain your series. I'm not leaving this town because I'm going to prove everyone they're wrong. They're wrong about me. I'm not a failure. And you'll have your surrogate audience as much as you can stack that or infer it by utilizing most of the characters that you currently have, but I would do it in I would format it potentially a little bit different to jump her in. Then you get a chance to, like, essentially set up, and this is what I love about Arrested Development, I'm just watching it again. But I'm not watching, I love the series, I love the plot math and the character math. And I still get subverted, like where I think it's going and how Mitch Hurwitz just subverts, and you know, that's a master class in and of itself in terms of a dysfunctionally fucked up family.
Would it be interesting if each one of those people in her life think of her slightly differently? Like they don't all think she's a failure. One of them thinks she's a slut, or one of them thinks she's a, you know, do you know what I mean? Like they have different takes.
I thought I wanted to know more about her, and I would use the characters in your pilot, so that, you know, how did she get to this? She's right at the nexus of giving up by leaving, and the opportunity to get called back, right? And then there's the unlikely shepherd in the form of both the journalist, and I would think on that, there might be the junior, because the news institution, as it's getting battered in a Gestapo-like manner, let's face it, I think there's meaty commentary through the small town lens and character-based lens, but you have to look and qualify each character. What are we really talking about as it pertains to her? How can we use it to, how can we achieve 3 or 4 things per scene potentially by dropping her in, so that we achieve a version of our conceit. That's what I love about Breaking Bad. It's like no one's really employed that I've seen in comedy, but there's a way to use every small town character in a way that defines her journey. The more that you use your sort of omniscient sort of lens on that little town and who each player is, that's going to sustain her character journey. Your series is as robust. Right now they're not really, it's convenient, right? Well written, well conceited, but that's what's going to propel your series forward, to my mind.
All right. It's always interesting when we hear, like when you're writing, you think, oh, this is hilarious, and then you see people in the, and you talk to showrunners and all that, and the amount of like carefully managed thought in terms of what the character's representing and what this show's really about, and you know, subtext and all that other stuff that goes into these things.
It
Which
makes it thematically much more.
Yeah.
The microcosm becomes the macrocosm, and the tricky thing with comedy, which makes it, you've got less time to do it. You've got to every scene, especially. I liked how you focus on your protagonist, but I wanted to know more about her, that layered her, and utilize the ids of each person in her life to sort of give it an inference on her past. And you know, she's Eve in the Garden of Eden, right? So that, and this is an abstract, but thematically, the root of all misogyny, let's face it, is when everything was twisted. You know, so to propel her, all I can say is you get the housewives, you got the husbands, because I'm like, let's watch Narcos, honey. She's like, let's watch Arrested Development. Okay, let's watch. That's it. Every boy does. So you're gonna live or die by her character, right? Thus, reductively, within that plot math, because it's all character and plot is nothing but math, really. How you set up. That's why, you know, when you watch the best plays, film, cable, what you're really looking at is character, plot, math. And so you need to double down on your quotients of characters and who were they before this? Think through, like, you know, for every actress who meets, or actor who meets Mickey is like, who was I before this? Right? If you can't answer that, you're going to find yourself relegated, right? So what happened to her before? How can you inform that within that limited space that sets up the other series math forward? Moreover, how can you sweep the expectations and the legs where you think people are going and they're not? That's what Mitch Hurwitz did brilliantly in Arrested Development for one proxy.
Right. So by tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely.
By the way, Mickey is in the house. Mickey Fisher, thank you for coming. Mickey is showrunner of a new show called Reverie, and he did excellent, and he was a former lovely insider, so make sure you say hello to Mickey before you leave. Okay, Michelle. You look surprised, you had your hand up. Oh, you call on me.
So excited. I just had a thought, just because, and I don't know if this counts as pitching, I apologize if it does. You mentioned her parents had died of cancer. Because she goes from this 8-year-old who writes this adorable poem to this shit show mess, hot mess. Like, was it the death of her parents that affected her so deeply that turned her into that person? Or like, what role did her parents play? And is there anything to be done with that being part of her inspiration to, you know, go,
legacy, yeah.
You know, be mayor, so just seemed like it's an opportunity to explore some emotion there.
Yeah. Lady on front.
Yeah, I guess my question about the whole story is, what, as the audience, am I supposed to want? Because my feeling is, she hates the town hates her, the town hates themselves, she hates them, and I'm like, I know that she wants to go scuba diving in the Maldives, but like, her becoming mayor doesn't help her in that goal at all, and also she doesn't deserve to go scuba diving in the Maldives because she's mean and she drives drunk. So my feeling is, I'm like, I feel like there's some really great bright spots, like with Mr. Krantz and with the moment at the end that helped me kind of tilt towards, oh, okay, I want her to do better. But for most of the story, I feel like there's so much, for me at least, there's a lot of unrelenting unpleasantness from everyone involved. And I just want the entire town to vote for the bomb and the bomb to wipe them out.
That's nice.
That was too mean. But, but no, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know what I want these characters to have.
Season 2 takes place in the Maldives. Yes.
Just to add to that.
Let's not get into
another bomb?
Yeah.
I love the idea of the political microcosm. And if you were to make it a much smaller town, where Abby knows a lot of people, and they know her, and through her rage, through her drunkenness, you show us what exactly it is about this town that makes her feel so shitty. So we get an idea of the political background. Why isn't there another candidate for mayor? Why has everything sunk so low? She is like a parallel to the history of the town, right? So if you tie her in more closely to that, and without it being a cliche of small town Americana, but some original characterization, so that yes, we know she's going to end up being mayor, but we also know the issues that she's going to tackle. And then the fun will be to see how does she tackle those issues.
Well, I mean, I'm not answering it for the creator here, but I see the small town as America, and the drunkenness of a lot of sort of asleep at the wheel, not caring about politics, and ideally the hope for someone to take responsibility, but lensing that through comedy, deconstructive. I mean, that, to me, it's not a small town. To me, it should be thematically like potent, ideally.
Right. Sir, by the way.
Two things. It kind of involves the comments over here. I think it's really important because I too felt like, okay, why should I root for her? But I think it's important. I understood why I should root for her because of the parent thing. And I understood I should root for her because she might be smart. And I don't know she's smart until like the very end. I know she's clever, but like a lot of assholes are clever and not very smart.
Yeah.
And also, this also reminded me of You Are a Badass. You know that book? Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm enjoying the book right now.
It's trending hard. Yeah.
And basically, it talks about, it's basically The Secret and like with potty language. But yeah, it is kind of true. The kind of core of that is like you manifest things, and she does manifest something in that comment when she says, "There's nothing more I can do here. I have topped out. I have topped myself out." And I think and that's kind of buried under I want to go scuba diving. She wants to be vital, and I think the park and that scene that you have with that black girl in the board is really important to that. To illuminating her intellect, and that she has civic pride of some sort.
Yeah, that's a good point. The various layers of this nation.
Holiday.
I just think in all their interactions with the town, they're mostly pretty negative. The cop and the being fired and the coffee shop guy and all these, but it'd be nice to see her be right in just like one of them, because right now it's kind of like, well, we're supposed to side with her, and she's saying like the problem is this town, but from our sort of point of view right now, well, she was speeding and she was drinking and she was late and she did
It might be kind of one of the townspeople were like, we need, you know, someone like no one. Karen, and then you're down here, and then we'll be done.
Just three quick things. One thing is, I think it's the civics teacher. We have a moment in the script where we go into his POV, and it seemed like he was going to be that big of a character. We would have spent more time on him. But when we go into his trailer, it's his POV and not through her. It's the only time we do it. So I would just maybe watch out for that one. A simple way to get into the she was, I loved her character. She like really didn't give a fuck about anything. I think I needed her to give like half a fuck more. And what do people who don't give up really are outspoken about not giving a fuck? It's usually because they really deeply care about something, and it hurts to show that. So they're gonna give not give a point. So I needed like one character who knew like who she really was and was a touchstone. Like maybe it could be the sister. Where it's like, I know who you are, and this Maldives thing is like running. You're just trying to run. It'd be almost cool if like it was Maldives 1 second and Bermuda the next, and like she doesn't have a plan. That's her escape. That's what she does. So, and then on the comment of her giving half a fuck more, I think the big break where she makes the choice to throw her hat in for mayor. You could get a lot of the world building of the actual, what episodically we'll be seeing, if the choice is to quit. She has to like midnight to quit. So then, at least in that act, we could see like, fuck, I didn't mean to be mayor, now I'm mayor, and people are already coming at her with stuff. She's just like, I'm just packing, and you tell me all this shit about this town, because I'm gonna quit at midnight. So,
All right, one more, lady in front.
So, not pitching, but where I thought we were going to go was that the evil mustard was going to try and get her not to be mayor. So that way we had some push against her and she could push back. And we could also feel better about her if she was being crucified and she was being harassed by the two politicians trying to get her out of town. Because at the end, I just didn't believe she would stay. You so hard hit that she was leaving, she's done, this is bullshit, and then kind of turned that in like 30 seconds. And so if we had more, no, screw you, then we would have believed it more at the end when she finally does decide to stay. So it just felt like there was a way to make the villain less villainy. If we, instead of saying we're villainy, ha ha ha, they actually did villainous things.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, very good. Anything from you? Anything you want?
Oh, I just want to, in the purpose of my, I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I had a baby 6 days ago. I can't make sense. Just to note that the fellow who created this world, I wrote the script, but who created the characters in the world, Jonathan Bode, lives in Chicago, where he would certainly be up here too. And I know he'll watch us on the YouTube, but. When we clap at the end of this, just use one hand for him, one for me.
Yeah. Let's do that now then.
Yeah.
All right, we're running a bit late, so we'll do a quick Q&A. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
I'm always curious how literary managers become literary managers. How did you get into this?
So I started as an intern at an agency called, at the time it was called Endeavor. Ironically now it's called Endeavor. My first boss was Art Emanuel. I was an English Lit major at UCLA, where I went to play football and blew my knee out and was just trying to, I grew up reading books and I love words. It's kind of one of those things where like you're in English class and you're really striving. And the teacher pulls you aside, like in college, and he's like, "You got a B+, mostly because of the way you interact with the classmates. And it's kind of an overall score." And you know, I'm not saying that you should not be a writer, but you shouldn't be a writer. You love writers, and that was good advice. And the truth of the matter is I've always just loved great stories, and I just love words, and you know, when you get to a certain point, for me, probably like 8th grade, you kind of realize like where your words stand and other wordsmiths' storytelling lies, and so yeah, so I started as an intern and then got promoted in the feature literary department. And then it's one of these things where it's like, do you want to be an agent? And back then, you know, it was the early formation of the agency, amazing mentors, and it was kind of like, do you want to be an agent, a literary agent here? And I'm like, I don't even know what a film is. Like, I saw Star Wars, I thought it was real. And ultimately, it was like, I'd love to work on a set type of thing. And then in doing so, I ended up working for 2 of their clients, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's production company, and my boss was their producing partner, who was brilliant, and it was one of these things where on one half of my college notebook were all his development lexicons that I'd never really heard enunciated, and the other half was the project notes. And within that nexus, a couple of guys took me for a beer. Like, basically, it was like, hey, you know, one was Guy Cassidy, who was the very first person to really explain to me what a literary manager was, and it's kind of like part agent, part producer, and the truth of the matter is, my job is the same. I'm here to help. I'm like as all my clients now, I'm the R2-D2 in that little X-wing word. And I'll take the shots, and my job is to steer words and characters through all universes. And so my clients tend to inhabit, you know, people like film, cable, broadcast, publishing. They're all just great words and stories and characters, and I help mine out the best packages and deals on any platform known in any word galaxy, with great writers. That's really what I love doing. That's what God put me on this earth for, and I feel blessed to have great writers. Very finite few.
Well, that was my question. What defines a great writer for you?
It's almost like you're a great writer, a great song. It's all individual. I grew up reading certain types of books and loving certain types of books that stem mostly dramatic, sci-fi thriller. Star Wars was the first film I ever saw, and it like blew my mind.
Yeah.
And then other dramas, you know. So it's just I would say it's specific there's I guess spiral ids of me, like the word with my little word Jedis. You know, they're I would say great ids of taste and sensibility. And so the literary manager, you kind of know, like, you know, and I've identified great writers, and you kind of shake hands and be like, you know, like the Silicon Valley guys. So I flew to New York. Ultimately, I wouldn't be the best literary manager for them. You kind of, it's almost like a boy. You go up and you love all words. You're dating all any great word proser. Then ultimately, you kind of know where your spectrum, like where you're best, and that's kind of where I sit. And most of my writers, you know, like Mickey's playwright turned screenwriter. My clients tend to come out of playwright and author based, and they're just great character smiths. And then honestly, we can take those characters anywhere, like, you know, but mostly within the spectrum of drama, sci-fi, dramatic comedy. Like, I love Star Wars, but I love Guardians. I love one of my creators, one of my comic book guys created Deadpool. I just loved stripping through, sabering through. Like, he took a character and just deconstructed. You know, what he thought was cool and fun, and I guess I kind of came up with authority issues, and I just loved that he wanted to create like kind of a bad boy superhero. So I guess there are different ids of what you can relate to voice-wise and add value to. And then, you know, just through coming up.
Well, the add value part, we'll ask Mickey and Hannah, because you have two of your clients in the room, so we'll
fair enough. They'll be like, he can't even spell his name.
I know time is short, but what we normally like to do is, there are a bunch of writers in the room, most of whom are unrepresented or, you know, would kill to have you look at their script. So what advice do you have? I mean, what's the market and what's the world like? Any suggestions you have for right now?
That could be its own class.
Right, I know.
There's been, everything works off the base, like the best version of the client, right? And playing to their strengths. So
you got to know your strengths. Because a lot of writers get told, write what they're buying, write what will sell. And then the next breath, it's like, find your own voice, write your own voice. But write what will sell. And then you're left with like, well, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what genre I'm supposed to be writing, and I don't know what my voice is. So you get all of that information as an unsigned writer. So how do you, I mean, what do you do with that?
So I love great engine voices, right? I'd rather a writer bake and know their voice, and you can literally put that, you know, if you look at J.J. Abrams, the Russo brothers, who did the pilot of Arrested Development, when you know what you can do well, I can apply that into, you know, from a play into, you know, in finding our process together, which is creatively, there's no crystal ball, you know, you kind of, but when you have a sense of the voice, it's like knowing an engine and how to really apply that engine in its best capacity. It's like, again, the R2 bot, my clients have like their own, so finding your voice would be like having your lightsaber of like your voice of words, right? And then help steering that and applying it, navigating, you know, the vagaries at best of this current business, having amazing agency partners. I got lucky because I incredibly lucky for the agents who sort of help mold the way that I think a bit and understand how the dynamics of an agency. So it's kind of like a, you know, working in tandem, helping harness the creative side, but also observing the agency packaging elements, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm the little R2 bot where it's like I click the saber and it's like psst. and my clients, you know, have theirs, but my job is to backstop them.
Right. Thank you so much for coming.